We are ready to blast off. Welcome, Madelyn Moon, to The Fear Alchemist. And I would love for you to introduce yourself from the get-go with just by holding up your book so that people know what's coming in Artist of Love.
Yes. Artist of Love is the name of my best-selling book now. And my name is Madelyn. And I think this is my second time to come on to the show, perhaps.
Yeah, so second time it's rebranded into The Fear Alchemist.
Right.
But yes, technically your second appearance, so you're an OG, a return guest.
I'm an OG. Yeah, I love the name. I love the rebrand name. So I support women in learning how to become artists of love in regards to their own life, their relationships, and their connection with the world itself.
Yeah. How did you think of the name, or how did the name come into
you? Artist of Love was something that was floating in my sphere for a while. I'm not actually sure exactly where I first thought of it or heard it, or, this special combination of words, but it was something that I started to really transform my teachings around that beautiful foundation of the feminine and masculine polarity, which is so great and also so lacking in so many ways. And for a few years, I was really in it. I wasn't innovating. I was just I'm in the feminine and masculine world. This is what it is. I learned this. Now I teach this. And after a while of really experiencing being in relationships that were kind of based off of feminine and masculine polarity, and realizing, whoa, I feel super pretzeled. Somehow this world, I grew up in a world that was patriarchal and conservative and Southern Baptist, where women were less than men. And I was pretzeled in that world to fit and mold into that mentality in that society. And then I grew up and I expanded and I traveled, and then I found this amazing space of feminine and masculine polarity, where all of a sudden my emotions as a female were valid and encouraged to be bigger and encouraged to be more and more revealed. But then all of a sudden I found myself realizing that in even that world, there is a way that the feminine is to be molded, to always reveal the truth of her heart, to always use sound and expression over speech, to never lead, to be sparkly and feminine and open in all these ways that, yet again, it was these rules laid out for us to follow. And they were beautiful, and this kind of framework really soothes the heart of a lot of women searching for the place that they belong, where their emotions are welcome. And yet it's another different kind of pretzel. And when you step outside of the lines of what that kind of feminine goddess does, then all of a sudden you're back where you started, where you're questioning what you're feeling and trying to harness your way of expressing it in a relationship so that it stays within the lines. And to be an artist means to create something that is not yet here. It is to innovate. So my true deepest desire is to help women learn how to innovate what it means to be feminine, to stop going to all of the books or to the rules that were written by men from tens of thousands of years ago, but to instead create and innovate what it means to be a feminine being, an artist of love who creates, I love that your name is The Alchemist, because everything that I teach as an artist is to turn water into wine, to create something magical that's never before been done out of your childhood wounds, out of your pain, out of relationship dogma. Create something out of it. Make something out of it with your own body and with your hands, with your womb. So that's in a nutshell what it means. And there's so many details of it, of all the different ways to be an artist of love, but I'll stop there.
Well, I love that, because as soon as when you were speaking, the artist and the alchemist are very similar. And I was making that connection too as you were speaking, and it's individual, and it I haven't read the book yet, but it sounds like what does it mean? Like, is it very individual? Like, as an artist of love, instead of like, here's the feminine and here's the masculine, traits in each side of the chart or whatever. Is it more just like, what is your unique expression, and to like follow, like to be in your heart? Like, what does that actually feel and look like?
So I have combined the artist of love is an intersection between all my favorite kinds of work. So I just wanted to create something where everything merged together.
Love
And
it.
this is what makes it a little bit unique, is that in this body of work, what it's primarily based around is feminine embodiment meets acting and improv
Mm,
meets archetypes and shadow work. That's what everything combined comes together, because I wanted to create, um, I wanted to teach people how you can turn water into wine, how you can turn a trigger into art in a multitude of different ways. So I first created these archetypes that women could explore. So if there's only four, and by having four archetypes, you have this nice dialed in way that you can learn how to create art. So I have a loyal oracle. So how to be in partnership, very loyal, and also to see the unseen. You're an
mm,
oracle. You see beyond what's present. You can feel into your partner and remain loyal to him by telling the truth, by calling him in deeper. And there are ways that the loyal oracle creates art. So I wanted to lay something out very clearly. We also have the playful priestess, like her her gift in a tantric sense is to be playful, is to do the unthinkable, to surprise, the element of surprise. She loves drama. And yeah, she just gifts the world with her sparkle and her chandelier essence. And then we have the erotic enchantress. She lives by the pulse of her sex. Like, sex is more than just a thing she does, it's a way that she lives. And even when she's going through a trigger, she turns that trigger into an erotic gift as a way to get her message across. Not just so that, it lands well for her partner because it's sexy. It's not the point. It's because it's her truth is to live from her sex. And
mm.
that's how, in a like almost Lilith way, she she creates art out of a situation that would otherwise, you know, suck life out of a moment. And then we have the sacred devotee. This is very much like the Mary Magdalene. She creates ceremony and ritual, and everything she touches turns sacred. And she has her own ways of creating art out of triggers through ceremony, through like really putting a trident in the sand and saying, no more to this pattern. And here's how we're going to claim that moment of no more. We're going to create a ceremony. So the archetypes are really wonderful ways for people to be like, I've got a trigger. Which one of these four do I want to invoke within
Mm.
myself and play with? And then, though, that's not enough. We're way more than four. We're infinity. And so that's where acting comes into the picture. Where when you're acting, you're creating characters that were never before done. It's completely in your imagination. Improv, same thing, completely made up. So no more do we have just four. We have infinity. And this is where a lot of juice gets to be found, because you can use acting as a way to discover more of your shadow side by trying on characters, either seeing things in movies that you want to emulate in your life or making one up on your own, writing screenplays, creating a totally different story out of that 21-year-old trauma, that experience you had. You can write a screenplay where it has a different ending. You
Mm.
can film it. You can really create something out of something that happened in your life to rewrite it or to just touch it more deeply. So there's that. Then there's, of course, the polarity piece, feminine and masculine, which I feel like a lot of people really understand by now. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. But the other pieces, to me, added to the polarity, added to relationship, is what makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, this is cool. I like how you did the four archetypes and then it's like, and infinity.
Mhm. Right. It's like, here's this for like a launch pad, and they're super fun. Super fun. I love playing with them. And then acting, it's like, all right, I'm ready for level two. I'm ready to like one of the practices I give my students is to memorize a monologue. And it's in the book, the 2 different ways to do a monologue, because there are 2 ways you can practice with monologues as a spiritual practice. But I love monologues because you can find a character. Like the other day, I was talking with my teacher and I was speaking with her about how with my assistants, I have somewhat of this people pleasing tendency that comes out that can really get in the way of me getting my needs met. And she knows the work I do. So she was speaking my language and she was like, great. So what would Cruella de Vil do? What would Cruella de Vil do? And I was like, she'd probably flick her cigarette at them and say, get it done, bitch. And like walk into the next room. And so if someone wanted to, infuse more of an energy into their life, not to like become an asshole, but to balance out a tendency, then you can take on a character and learn a monologue from a movie and actually rehearse it and put your life force into it and perform it for friends to really anchor in that shadow piece to help embody it. I think that monologues are just such an underutilized tool for all of us non-actors in the world as a way to do shadow work that's safe and doesn't really require going to a 5-day workshop.
Yeah, and what's really cool is like it's so playful and light. And so you said turn water into wine and then triggers into what?
Art.
Okay, this is so cool. So and you might share some of these in the book, but what's been like a key water to wine moment for you?
Well, the book itself is.
Actually. I had a feeling, actually.
Yeah. So the short story, which may not be short, we'll see. I wrote this book, and technically I've been writing different versions of whatever book wanted to come through for like 4 years. 2020, I wrote, I think, 4 different versions of a book.
Oof.
And then I took a break. And then in December of last year, I was with a partner at the time, and he was like, just give it another shot. Just like, and I was like, you don't understand. It's the hardest thing in my life. I'll just start writing and get my hopes up and it won't come true and all this stuff. And then, just a simple statement of like, go try it again, got me to try it again. And I ended up writing the first draft of this within maybe 3 weeks, which is kind of normal for me in a first draft. I write it in days. And after I wrote it, I was like, okay, to really keep this as something I'm going to create, I'm going to get an editor who's going to bust my balls, like someone who's going to be like, we're making this amazing book. So I started hunting for editors that would do that. I didn't want to just self-publish a book that came through on the first round. I wanted someone to really help me harness it, but I also didn't want to go the traditional route because that would take another 2 years to get it out. And I didn't want to wait. Yeah, I was very impatient. I was like, I'm ready. So I found an editor, and the same week that I found my editor, me and that partner split up. And so I'm going into this like bellied over grief moment of what is happening. And I get an email from my editor who's like, this is a great book, but we need to rewrite it from scratch. And we need to have a lot more structure.
Okay.
And I was like, one part of me was like, this is great. I get to have a project to work on as I'm grieving. And then another part of me was like, fuck, this is going to interrupt my grieving. Like, I just need to grieve and like be on the floor and eat cupcakes and like cry and call my girlfriends. But there was a part of me that was like, I'm really going to trust that this is happening for a reason, that I need to rewrite this book at the same time that I'm going through this. And little did I know that this breakup process with this partner would actually end up lasting pretty much the entirety of 9 months of untangling, moving in, doing this dance, like feeling sacred injustice within myself, feeling upset, feeling anger, and like really working with all of that emotion at the same time that I was working on this book. And at first, when I say that, if I was a listener listening to that, I'd be like, oh no, should I read this book? Because it's basically reading someone's grief. And what was really great was that my vision was so strong throughout the entire period of my grief around this being a book that was a true piece of sparkly art. That the sparkliness of like the the upliftment I wanted to offer in this book was that North Star for me throughout all the grief. And I got to rewrite a lot of beliefs that I had through writing this during a separation, because there were things I believed when I was in partnership with him that I no longer believe afterwards.
Like, do you mind sharing one or two?
Well, one of them is it was through this. Yeah. So one of the things that I've been experiencing a lot is that relationships cannot work if they are built on a foundation of polarity. So polarity is naturally in opposition. Masculine meets feminine. So if polarity is the opposition, whereas sacred union or tantra is the coming together of the masculine and feminine. If you're only ever pulling apart, you're never going to feel that sacred weave. And you're always going to feel like a little, that tension of like, you're not seeing me, you're not understanding me. And there's, what I experienced was, one of the rules in that polarity space is that when the feminine is talking, oftentimes what she's really saying is not coming through in her words. So it's partly the masculine's responsibility in the polarity world to listen to what she's saying underneath what she's saying. And for a while, I really romanticized that idea. Post rewriting this book, I romanticized that. Like, he's listening to what I'm saying underneath what I'm saying. And it's a way that we infantilize women, that we actually aren't saying our truth. And it actually becomes quite maddening when you feel like the words you're saying are not being heard because your partner is always looking for what's underneath it. And you're like, I'm saying what I need. I'm telling you as a woman in my 30s, like I'm telling you, because I know. And there's kind of this culture in that space where she's not really aware to what she needs. And it's his job. And that is an issue that I experienced with polarity being the foundation, because that's built into it. And there's other things. There's actually quite a few things. Maybe that's a different book coming about. But what I really realized throughout this time was that she knows best, and he should listen to what she's saying she needs. And that's more in the realm of sacred union. So I get very cautious when women come to me and they're like, I want a man to take me deeper than I can take myself. And I'm just like, I understand that on one hand. And where are you willing to take yourself deep and take a stand for you taking yourself deep in that area? There's some areas where a beloved taking you deeper is rich and divine. I would not encourage it to be all the areas, because then you will end up in this situation where not only do you feel like your words are not being heard, but you begin to not trust yourself to know what you're really saying and needing.
Yeah. Do you feel like that happened to you, where you were like subconsciously, I'm not sure if degrading is the right word, but like minimizing or like
it's a little bit of, it's a little bit of self-gaslighting. Just like, here's what I think I need, but maybe I'm not really awake to it because I don't really know, because I'm a little feminine being. And, and it's just another repackaging of the patriarchy. And I'm not blaming any of the teachers of this. I'm not blaming my past partner or any of the men teachers teaching polarity. Because I think that a lot of this work has just fallen into the wrong hands, and people will present it as a spiritual teaching, but it's really egoic. It's really them being like, I just want women to listen to what I'm saying for themselves. Honestly. And I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's at the tip of their tongue of like mind control, but I think it's just like, it's so beautiful in a sense. And so it's so easy to be like, yeah, this is beautiful. I want her to trust me over herself. It's beautiful. I can take her deep. And it's not equality, and it's not true partnership. And it's another form of codependency that we're retraining in a very sparkly spiritual way. But when you really go deep into it, I think most people wake up pretty quickly, and because they can feel it in their bodies, especially for women.
This is so fascinating. Like, that really is like a water into wine moment. And like, I
Mm.
just want to keep going down this, like, but what was even like the trigger into art? Like, how did you actually, like, did you do a monologue, or like, what was one of those trigger moments that you,
Mm.
I mean, this book is a piece of art, obviously, but like, how did that happen? Or like, what triggers did you feel during this time as well?
Mm. Mm. Well, one of them that I really sat with is a lot of times throughout the past several months, when not more recently, but towards the beginning of the separation, I kept noticing that I would feel this surge of energy in my body of anger, for
Mm,
example, and want to discharge it, like want to throw it at him, be like, see all these reasons why I'm upset. Don't you see this? Kind of like a pie in the face. And when I would do that, what I noticed, the very nuances in my body. So I was really slowing down around this process. I would give it to him, or I would give it to my girlfriends. And then I would feel just like ever so slightly this like subtle dim in this massive bonfire I was building in my body, which was nice because it was a relief. Like, whew, I got some anger out. It was heard, it was witnessed. I can breathe a little better. But then all of a sudden I would go, but I miss that heat. Like I was
mm,
building a big bonfire, and by discharging it, it feels a little dimmer. And I could notice the subtleties of that in my system, where I then afterwards would be like, maybe I don't need to give my anger out, because it's actually feeling a little bit more like life force.
cool.
And I want to harness it, and I want to stoke that fire, and I want to learn. This is the key for everyone. I want to learn how to train my body to hold more of the fire, because I wasn't able to hold it, which is why I was discharging it. Like, fuck you. It made me feel better. I all of a sudden had to hold a little less, but the very real practice that I could have been taking part of, where I was like practicing breathing in all of that energy and harnessing it and holding it in my body, got leaked out. And I missed
Mm,
an opportunity. And I would start to get kind of excited for like a 24-hour cycle, where I would start to feel that heated again. And then I'd be like, this time though, I'm going to keep it in. I'm going to breathe it in. I'm going to do my practice, and I'm going to sit with it.
mm,
So I wrote a post a while ago about discharging your longing, and how for an artist, it's important to stop discharging your longing with, like, you know, just vent sessions on Instagram in a post. Like, keep that and wait till you write a book, or
mm.
wait till you put out a well-produced piece of music. Like, keep all those teeny tiny little bits you want to leak out, and hold them in your body to see what on a grander scale you can create with this that has a much bigger impact. And my friends were very supportive in this. When one of the practices that I did during this time is I would write Instagram stories that I wanted to post that I never did. Like, I
Mm.
would write things. I'd be like, fuck this, and I can't believe this happened, and this and this and this and this. And then I would send it to a group chat with four of my
Mm.
closest women friends instead of publishing it, because I didn't want to discharge it, and I didn't want to say anything in the middle of a really intense experience. So I still wrote it, but I just didn't post it. And I would give it to a different set of witnesses, because I wanted to ultimately harness this. And last thing I want to make clear is that all that anger that I was harnessing transmuted into a divine lesson that's much more uplifting than just giving people my anger. So it's not that you harness it to then put out an album that is about fuck you, and it's like a lot of money goes into it.
Yeah.
Instead, I transmuted it, so it turned into something that was actually not even about me, not even about my relationships. It went so much bigger than that,
Mm.
bigger vision. And I think that's what's really important, is that when we're harnessing all of this life force, the goal is not to make your anger bigger on a bigger scale. The goal is to transmute it. It can stay, you can still have anger, but we're thinking now about what we're creating for the sake of love itself. So on that bigger scale, we're asking what's really going to serve the planet, what's really going to serve people once they get their hands on this thing that I'm creating. That's not even about me, but rather about them.
Yeah, this is dope. I love that. It's like, And of course, I'm a huge fan of transmuting. So it's like, and I love just all of, because essentially everything is life force energy, right? Is like one of my main beliefs is like fear is love in disguise. So it's just like fear, right? Is like, it's that same thing. Fear is really just anger as well, right? Anger is trying to protect you from something. And so, and then you transmute that into something beautiful. Like when you look underneath that, like have you, not to say that you needed to do it, but like how long did this relationship last? Was it like a year-ish?
This one was about, yeah, a little over that.
And so we were sharing over Instagram DMs of like exploring the fear of finding the one true love, essentially. Like, does it exist or does it even need to exist, and all these things? Was it like when you were like in those moments, like I guess I'm just curious of like when like uncoupling or transitioning out of this, was there a part of you that didn't want to? Because there was part of you that's like, if this goes and there's nothing else, or like were you kind of idolizing it or putting it on a pedestal? What was the thing underneath this transition that possibly you didn't even know that was there, if that makes sense?
Ask it maybe in just one more way, just so before I go on my.
Before you go in there, what essentially, yeah, I'll just say like, what were you protecting yourself from?
In the breakup?
Yeah. Or potentially even during it, right? Like, because I know you went deeper into yourself, right? That always happens with like those initiations. Like, what was something, because you already talked about how you were like minimizing yourself, right? Because based on the rules of polarity. So what was something else that you were perhaps protecting yourself from? Like whether it's during the breakup or now post looking back, you're like, I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Yeah, I think one of those things was, how do I say this? Even if a woman has built every ounce of her success on her own, there is sometimes a primal fear that comes up when you separate from someone who is more successful or is also successful. Period. Like all of everything I've ever created, I have privilege, of course. I'm white, able-bodied, thin, straight. So there's that. Daddy. I have a daddy who like put a roof over my head as a kid. I went to college. There's tons of privilege there. But everything from that moment on, I built myself. When I worked my ass off and lived in teeny tiny little spaces until I started to grow. And even into the moment of separating from him, I had all this primal fear come up around separating from a man who like is very successful. Will I be okay? Am I going to die? Is everyone going to stop caring about me? Like I even had this fear of like, did people only love me because I was in relationship with him, which is hilarious because our relationship was private. No one even knew.
Yeah.
And yet I was like, it's gotta be because of him. Like I was outsourcing my success to someone who did not give me any. That said, I will give my partner credit for being like a very, very, very savvy, business-minded human being. And so I did learn from him, ways to continue to grow. So there was ways that I definitely felt encouraged, like even my book, right? He was like, you should keep going. And because he said that, I was like, I should. So there were ways that I was, really inspired. And I could just feel that on such a primal level. And that fear came up for me really strong when we were first separating. Like, I really thought I was going to turn into a piece of shit. And I love myself and I love what I've created, but that was overpowered of just like, maybe not piece of shit, but like not have anything anymore. And I had to sit with that. I had to sit with that. I had to cry with that, be with that, own that, because that was the answer for me to knowing if me and him are really meant to be or not. Like really feeling that, like for as long as I wanted to avoid that feeling, I would, this goes with any relationship. If you're not willing to sit with a feeling that's coming up, you're going to go back to that person in order to avoid the feeling. And I'm having these feelings right now. Like the separation goes on forever. Like I'm having my own stuff coming through, and I'm like, okay, if we were ever to find ourselves together again, I got to feel all of this stuff again in order to think clearly of what I want. And there's a lot, I mean, there's just a lot that's gone through that I've had to turn water into wine. And a lot of the times it's about feeling it and then creating something with it, whether for myself or for, you know, friends to see or for my business. But sitting with these things, it is the answer for anyone that's questioning a relationship. Like you have to sit with these things in order to get to the other side, to know what's best for you clearly, rather than just in reaction to not feel a feeling.
This is good. So it's like, and what you said was fascinating is like, you're always going through the separation. Like, will you expand on that? That's interesting.
Well, I kind of literally mean that. Like we tap dance, like, you know, it's like I literally mean that there's still a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't know if I don't want to be with you. Maybe I do want to. So I'm just, you know, it's part of my karma right now. There's just something very karmic around this, where every choice, like the choices to like, okay, no more, or maybe I love you. It's just this constant. I've never experienced anything like that as I have with this former partner. So for some people, it's literal where they're going in and out of like, maybe not, until they make that final karmic decision of like, I'm all in and I'm choosing to be all in. Or it's, I'm completely done and I'm closing the door and drawing a line in the sand. And sometimes even when you think the line in the sand is drawn, you may, you know, and what I want to say about that is that it's important to have so much compassion for yourself. If you like say you're done, but then you're not, or whatever, whichever way, because I do believe that there is something at play karmically with all of us in all of our relationships, and they have to play out. Things have to play out until you really know, until you really, 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 really know. And don't be hard on yourself if you have emotions you thought you had processed come back up, or fears that you thought you had processed come back up, because if they come back up, they're meant to be felt. The only way to the other side is through.
I appreciate you sharing that, because it's obviously still very much in process. And I love that glass. That's just a royal, regal.
Thank you. I love this glass.
That's amazing. And so, and this kind of goes back to what I mentioned before of like what you voice noted me on Instagram about like questioning if quote unquote the one is real or not. Like, do you mind expanding on that? Like, what has been your thought process and feelings of, because you are kind of like dancing back in and out. And so it would make sense that you like, is this real? Like, is it not real? Like start with like a year ago, did you believe in the one?
No, I mean, the one, to be more clear about what I'm speaking to, I'll share what I shared in the DMs with everybody so that they're very clear. Ben had asked me what would be the fear I'd want to explore. And I said that, you know, when I was 18, I was like, I'm going to be married when I'm 22 and have 3 kids and it's going to be awesome. And then when I was 22, I was like, oh, not yet. But when I'm 25, by that point, yeah, 25. And I'm like, I want to go travel, but 27 for sure. That's the year. And then now I'm 31 and I'm like, oh, wow, life really does fly by fast. And before I know it, I mean, I've heard from so many people that 30 to 40, just like so quick. And I'm like, I'm at the time of my life where it's time to make choices and time to make decisions. I feel of like for me, it just feels right for me to really slow down more around this process around choosing somebody,
Mm.
because it's not that I believe in the one. I don't believe in that, but I do believe in choosing a big one love.
Mm.
I don't think that there's just one person. I think there's thousands of people that we could make relationships work with. But I think my perspective is more so I want to choose one person to be the person I go in deep with. And as I continue to get older, I'm like, wow, time is flying by fast. Like, what is it going to require of me to choose? And at the same time, on the other side of the coin, I have this curiosity around our society as a whole. Are we moving out of that? Are we moving out of having one person we choose to commit to for long, 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 long? And is our world kind of made up of these like 6-year relationships just till we die? And I'm noticing that I'm trying to outsmart the game of life, and I'm trying to realize which it is so that I can hurry and get into alignment with it, which is not the way it works. Because I'm like, if I'm meant to have short relationships forever, I'd rather just know that and like rest into it and sink into it so that I stop trying to fight that natural path. But that's not how life works. That's not what's going to happen. I'm not going to know till I'm on my deathbed and I reflect and I go, oh, that's what it was. So right now and for every day, it's just be here now. It's just being here now with this person that I'm with. And I do think I personally don't want to have a life of a lot of short relationships till I die. I do want to have someone I go in deep with. So I'm going to hold on to that as the thing that I want. And it seems like you maybe agree.
Yeah, it's funny because like observing you and feeling into you is like, because that was gonna be my question is like, well, what does you actually want? But that was my feeling is like watching you speak about it is like that's actually what your heart and soul wants.
I don't want, I'm such a like relationship human. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the older that I'm getting, the more I'm like, yeah, like being out of relationship, I'm like, this is a great practice. It's a great practice. It's always a great reminder, but it's not where I want to live. It's where I want to go to train harnessing my longing, make art and blast it to the world, focus on my business, like flirt with the world. And I'm also very clear that I want to be a mother. I want to have a partner. I want to be a family unit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a mother in my life, and my whole family is kind of split up. So it's just that for me, creating that for myself is really important. And all my choices that I make at this point, like I so get it. There's things about dating a woman in her 30s. I so get that. I'm like, all right, does he have a job? Does he listen to what I say? Like, does he feel very reliable? Like, and there's like, because it's all for that future baby girl that I want to bring through. It's not just about like, I want to have fun anymore. So it's a unique art form to balance polarity and being in your feminine essence and leaning back and being colorful and expressive, and also being in your masculine, knowing what it is that you want and having boundaries with situations that don't apply to that dream life, and sitting with both.
Dang, yeah, I love this and relate to this on many levels, and I can just attest to like the family. Like that's something I've definitely always wanted. But I'm 31 and I just had like we had our first son, and it truly is like I get emotional. Like it really is like the best. Like nothing compares to like ooh, yeah, like it really is just like the first thought that I had when he came out was like, oh, like nothing else matters. Like truly everything else is so small. And then like my next thought was, oh, but everything else matters more because of this little like perfect soul. And it's so cool of like, well, nothing else matters, but at the same time, everything matters more. And it's such a great reminder of life. And for you, like I feel that I've always felt that from you is like I know I don't know how, but just like intuitively, like I just know you'd be like I know you are and will be an amazing like wife, partner, mother, family, head of all the things. Is there, so what part of you, because now that it's clear, and that's what I thought my read was like, I know that's what you want. So is there a part of you that doesn't believe that will happen, or is nervous of it not happening, or just time going by fast, or what is it?
Mm. Well, firstly, thank you for sharing that love with me. That was really beautiful to witness. And
Mm.
like, that's what I live for. Like these moments where we can like literally see the depth of love in someone's expression and
Mm.
body. And I got to see some of that. And I'm like, oh, that's what's possible. And it's so beautiful to witness. So
Mhm.
thank you. Um, yeah, and I do believe it's possible for me. There are moments, if we're speaking on a conversation of fear, like, of course, there are moments where that fear comes in that maybe it's not, because I have a lot of girlfriends who are stellar human beings who are 39 and at this point where they're releasing their idea of having a kid. And I'm like, my heart hurts so badly for them that they didn't
Mm.
get, they're having to go through a period of letting go of that dream. And while I watch that, for sure, I'm like, oh, like that's a person very similar to me, like, and that, I'm always gonna wait till the right person to have that
Yeah.
person with. I've always been very clear that um my standards are high of the person that I would want to be tethered to for the rest of my life. And those other women that I know have the same way that they want a king who can like really hold them in
Mhm.
their massiveness. And it is challenging at times to do the work, and to know who to do the work with. And
Mhm.
there's also so much conversation about, all over Instagram and teachings around, leave relationships if there's gaslighting and there's this and there's that and there's toxicity and da da da. Then there's also the work. And so it leaves like just a very interesting place. And that's where I've been, of just exploring these options of like, there's different archetypes of partnerships that I could go for. A partnership that's like light and playful and and youthful and like equality. But then there's like polarity and richness and depth and practice and Taoism. And then there's like, and you can have it all. I know that it's also out there to have everything. And I I'm just aware of all this, of like the desire that we can have for perfection, and how that's not the path that I want to choose. I like a partnership that has work to do.
Mm.
And it just depends on what kind of work, and what kind of work is going to be healthy for a child to come into this world and witness.
Mm. Man, yeah, I love talking about this with you. Like I can feel it from you. Like you truly, like it's you. I can like you love it.
It's my dharma. Like I'm
Mhm.
still having a great time, even if I'm like here right now questioning all these things, because this is what I'm here to do. And as long as I'm engaging in relationship, even in this way, where I'm
Mhm.
pondering it, looking at it, like I could probably stay in a detangling breakup thing for a while, because like I'm engaging in
Yeah.
relationship, and it's like part of my work. It gives me life in a lot of ways.
Mm. And is there a part of you, if I can ask this, like when you look at, because I've noticed the same thing, right? There's a lot of powerful, fully expressed, successful women, like in the late 30s or early 40s, especially in Austin, it feels like,
Hmm.
right? And it's
Mhm.
of like this, like, and I feel that too. Like I've felt that, like observing or discussing with some of them, of letting that idea go, which I can't imagine. Like if that's what you've deeply desired, that's got to be really difficult to
Mhm.
begin to let go of that. Is there like, this is kind of revisiting the same thing. It's like I feel like it's going to happen for you. It's like
Mhm.
I just know it is. So is it like do you? So what are you waiting for?
Mhm. Mhm. Him.
Mm.
Yeah. Him.
Can I ask another deep question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Um, so is it, oof, yeah, I'm going to ask this.
Go for it. I love it.
Okay. So is it this person that you've been dancing with? Do you think you've been waiting for a version of him to show up? Like, is it a version of him, or do you know that it's actually someone else?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. I think it's both. I think maybe it's meant to be somebody else, or maybe it's him. We've just been in this like I've been in an inquiry because with him, there's so much fucking love, and the
Mm-hmm.
love never goes. And I'm like, I've been really pondering, like, in a world where, maybe in our world, in my world, where falling in love happens once in a blue moon, like really deeply, would
Mm-hmm.
take a bullet for you, love. Do you stay when there's love and you just keep fucking going as
Mm-hmm.
long as you can until the love's not there anymore? And so that's kind of what I've been sitting with, is like, there's still love here. Like this, and, and there's also plenty to say about, you can still love a person and not be compatible. And that's another path. So it's just like, what do I listen to? Which path? And it's been basically 9 of, what is the path? Compatibility or love? And there's probably both. And
Mm-hmm.
TBD of what will happen in my life. But I'm here now. I'm here in this moment of pondering things, um and it's so great because this is all also adding to my net worth as a teacher. Like, that's also one of the things why I love about being the one to sit in all this shit and really look at all of this over and over and over and over again, because it helps me really relate to the world and these questions we ask about
Mm-hmm.
love and what it means to be an artist of love and how to create art out of this, and whether it's now or eventually. Sometimes we need pauses to just feel. But yeah, the topic of love and compatibility, is really important.
Dang. So we might have to, I don't know, talk offline or something. But there's so much similarity, and I didn't know we are going to talk about this at all. But there's something, because that's the exact. It didn't take me 9 months, but that's the exact thing that I was thinking of with my partner, like the love versus compatibility thing. It is, from my experience, just quickly, it is both. It's just stuff under the surface. But I just appreciate you sharing so much of in the space of, like, you've shared definitely some things of what you've gone through and like what you've learned, but also just being brave and vulnerable to share like the TBD part. I think it's just really, really admirable. And I appreciate it so much because I like, we expect people to be perfect and have it all figured out. So thank you for sharing like the imperfect, unfinished parts of love.
Thanks for your questions. They're really good. And yeah, I think people don't know how willing I am to just tell the truth in interviews. So it's actually really fun when someone's like, "Then tell me the answers about your confusion in your life." I'm like, "Yeah, let me tell you." So thank you for asking those questions.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, man, I want to keep asking questions, but it's perfect timing because you have to go. So I won't ask you anymore. Like those deep soul questions. So as we close, where can people find your book, and where can people deeply turn water into wine with you?
Yes. So Artist of Love is available everywhere. It's on pre-order for Kindle in a few places, but you can find it on Amazon. And my website is maddymoon.com, Maddie with a Y. And then my Instagram is Madelyn Moon, and I'm very active on there every day, posting videos and teaching. And I have a follow-up program coming out called the Artist of Love Initiation. that people can look into if they want to do a book and then a deeper dive into this work. That's
I
all on
love
the
it.
website.
Well, Madelyn, thank you so much. Like truly, and everyone definitely highly recommend. I imagine if you don't know her already, you've heard she truly embodies like the full spectrum. And that's what one thing I love about you is like you truly are like silly and playful and just like you truly like that drama and that like that actor, but then like you have the sensual and like the serious and the depth and like the honesty. So I highly recommend 10 out of 10.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate that and your support and seeing me and supporting the book and getting the word out. And yeah, thank you. Deep gratitude.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.